Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Ryan Levesque here. How are you doing? I wanted to check in and make sure that you can hear my audio okay. Can you hear me? Can you see my screen? Can you see Daegan's handsome face and my less handsome face next to him? All good. Awesome. Screen great. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Cool. That's really cool. Hey, quick question before we get started. I want to just get a sense for where is everybody? Are you in the U.S.? Are you overseas? What time zone are you in right now? For me right now, I'm in Austin, Texas. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I like to know kind of where people are. Cool. Awesome. We'll get a gold star for whoever is at the craziest time zone right now, which is probably like Australia. Mexico, Virginia, San Diego, awesome, UK, Central, UK, Tim's in Utah, Nick's in Denver, Jean-Pierre's in Las Vegas, Central for Gene, Switzerland. Okay, that might take the cake. Looks like most everyone here is in the US. Awesome. Cool. AZT. Oh, man, I feel bad for you, Philip. France. Awesome. Got some Germany. Man, we've got a cool European contingent here. Really, really cool. And before we dive right in, which we're going to do in just a second, one last question. Who here has been in my world at all? So are you familiar with any of my work, or am I a stranger to you? That'll help me kind of guide the training to know where to gauge it at. So have you heard of me before? Do you know who I am? Am I a new person that you have never heard of before? I'm just curious. Stranger. Awesome. I am a stranger. Stranger, danger stranger. Stranger with a brain I'd like to learn from. Awesome. Recently discovered you. Cool. Don't know me from a bar, so thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that. Well, I've been compared to work. Larry says yes. Oh, awesome. Richard in our next level group. Cool. Brand new. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that. Well, listen, guys, let's dive in. I wanted to just give a few minutes here for everybody to come on. The numbers are going up, or looks like they're continuing to go up, but I'm going to just dive right in. We've got a lot to cover today. We've got a lot of really good stuff, and we're going to cover, as you can see on this screen here, the weird ask formula or survey funnel formula that I've personally used to generate well over 3 million leads, over 200,000 customers across 23 markets. And you're going to see these markets in just a few minutes, and over $100 million in revenue. Now, the way, in case you're curious, that Daegan and I were connected, I run a high-level mastermind that people pay $10,000 to be part of for a weekend, and it's typically filled with 7- and 8-figure business owners. And I invited Daegan to be our guest of honor. And the reason is because Daegan has a very unique way of building online lead funnels that use quizzes, surveys, simple surveys, and they work profoundly well. And so Daegan and I, at this mastermind, which was in Miami, got together, and we were hanging out at the bar, and we were just like geeking out over the types of funnels that we build till like 2, 3 in the morning. Just, I don't know how many beers we had at that point, and we're just talking about all the different tests that we've been running and all the cool things that we found. And Daegan said, hey, you know what? It'd be really cool if you'd be open to coming and sharing some of that with my audience, because I think they would really, really enjoy it. And I said, well, yeah, let's do it. I love sharing this stuff. It's what I do all day, every day. And so that's how we got to where we are today, and I'm really excited to share with you what we're going to be covering. So before we dive right in, I want to answer a question that I have whenever I'm deciding whether or not I should pay attention to an online training that I might be considering attending, which is this for me? In other words, is this something that I can use in my business? So I want to take a moment to answer those questions. So if you're launching a new business or new product, or you've got a new project that you're trying to get off the ground, if you have an existing business but you struggle to make cold traffic work, and by cold traffic I mean everything from either Facebook traffic, Google AdWords traffic, to Twitter traffic, Pinterest traffic, solo email drops. If you're tired of relying on joint venture traffic and having to run internal launches just to keep the lights on and keep your business going, or if you simply want a proven evergreen online sales funnel that you can build once and set it and forget it, or If you have clients in any one of these situations, what I want to do is I want to show you what I consider to be the holy grail of online marketing, which is how to convert cold traffic into customers. Now, I get it. It sounds great, right? It sounds very enticing, but the big question, the $64,000 question is, well, how are you going to do that? Well, you're going to do it by using this right here. Now, because our time is limited, and we don't have time to go through every single item that you see on this page in the amount of detail that we really need to go into for you to understand this, what I want to do is focus on 3 of the highest leverage part of this process, which you see in these 3 red boxes here. Now, whenever I've done this training presentation in the past, I've always gotten a few people who have said, hey, Ryan, the screen is kind of small. I didn't really get a chance to see everything on this page. Is there any way that we could get a copy of this flowchart? So here's what we'll do. I've got my assistant, Megan, on the call with us right now. And if you would like to get a copy of this chart, just in the chat box, type in, yes, I want this. I want a copy of the chart. And let's do this. If we get at least, say, 25 people who want a copy of the chart, what we'll do, Megan, I'll just ask you at the end of this presentation, remind me, we'll set up a way for you to get a free copy of this this flow chart. And by the way, I've had people message me in the past saying that they've printed this up, they've blown it up at Kinko's, and they've put it up on their wall. I've gotten people posted on Facebook photos of their monitor, and they have this as the background of their monitor because they're following this process. It's the guiding part of their business. And so let me just look, just kind of quick ballpark. Awesome. So Floyd says yes, Toby yes, Nick yes, Phil yes, Sam yes, I want this, Jean-Pierre says yes, Matt says yes, Tim says yes. I went to school with a Tim with the same last name. I don't know if Tim, you're the Tim that I know. Susanna says yes, please. Vicky yes, Saul yes, Kenny yes, Phil yes, Manuel yes, John yes, Eduardo, Vaughn, Romeo, Brian, Larry, Jean-Marc, Dave, Jean-Pierre, Royland, Jean, Deborah, holy moly, Brett, Victor, Wayne, Jeff, Richard, Bob, Romeo, Paulette, Michael, Ricardo, Philip, Randall, German Wolf, Jason, Frank. Gosh, I can't even keep up with all the names. Yes, yes, yes. All right, cool. Looks like we'll make a way of to make this available for you for free. So just do me a favor, Megan, if I don't remember, remind me at the end of this. Okay, so if we keep going here, talking about converting cold traffic into customers and doing it in scale, obviously the question is, well, how do you do this? Well, the way you do this is you ask people what they want. Now, what's interesting about asking people what they want is you can't directly ask that question. And the reason why is because people don't know what they want. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Now, one thing that I also promised I'd do for Daegan, because Daegan has a special place in my heart, and I've learned a lot from Daegan myself, and I think we consider ourselves students of each other. I agreed to do something that I've never done before, and that's this. So what you see here is the cover of my book, Ask. It's a book that's about to release worldwide in about 2 weeks. This is a real bookstore book that you'll find on the shelves of Barnes & Noble and Amazon, and it's well positioned to be a bestseller. I think we've pre-sold over 25,000 copies of the book. And so here's what I'm going to do. For anybody who sticks around through the presentation, at the very end, I'm going to make a way available for you to get access to a free digital copy of this book as soon as it releases worldwide. And this will be a real ebook. This isn't like a quote-unquote info product. So in other words, you'll be able to choose if you want it in Kindle format, as an iBook, as a Nook book. And I think this is something that you'll really, really, really love and get a lot of benefit out of. And again, this is I'm going to be giving you a special link to do this at the very end of this presentation. This is not something that, and I'm genuinely saying this is not something that I've ever done before, and I'm only doing it for Daegan. So does that sound good? Is that cool? Would you like a free copy of this? I think this is going to be really special. So getting back to the holy grail of asking people what they want without doing it. The reason why you can't ask people what they want directly is because people don't know what they want. In fact, whenever I bring up the topic of asking what people want, inevitably someone will quote a famous historical quotation. And so one of them that comes up often is a quote that's attributed to Henry Ford. And he says, if I'd asked people what they wanted, well, they would have told me faster horses. And more recently, another quote that comes to mind for many people, and I'm paraphrasing, it's a quote attributed to Steve Jobs, and it's, focus groups are worthless. People don't know what they want until they see it. And the reason why quotes like that ring true is because they are true. So when it comes to asking people what they want without directly asking them, there are really only two types of questions that you can ask to arrive at that answer indirectly. And the two types of questions, this is something that you want to write down, the two types of information that people can accurately answer are as follows. Past behavior, so what did you have for dinner last night? You can pretty accurately answer that question. And what is it that you don't want? If I were to say, hey, you want to grab lunch? Sure. What do you feel like eating? I don't know. Well, let's narrow it down. What do you don't want? Is there something that you don't like to eat? We all have things that we don't like, right? So if we go back, if Ford instead would have asked the question, well, tell me, what is it that you don't like about riding horses? He would have gotten all sorts of useful information. He would have gotten answers like, well, I don't like the fact that horses are slow. I don't like the fact that horses need to be fed. I don't like the fact that horses are, they get old, and as they get old, I need to replace them. I don't like the fact that when it's raining outside and I ride my horse, I get wet. I don't like the fact that I can only fit one person on my horse, so on and so forth. And he would have gotten all sorts of useful information. So now, Daegan, I know you're a silent observer here, but we're talking now about the types of questions that you can ask in your marketing, and one of them that you cannot ask to find out what people want is directly asking what people want, because what people say they want, what they tell you they want, what they think they want, and what they really want, and not only what they really want, but what they really want to buy and what they really want to buy from you are very different things. And what we're going to be talking about today is I'm going to show you the formula that we've used to successfully enter 23 different markets to determine exactly what your customers want to buy and what they want to buy from you. So Daegan, before I dive into the good stuff, is there anything that you wanted to hop on and say, or do you want to enjoy the ride as I take this sip of my...
No, keep rolling, man. I'll jump in. I'll jump in when it's
Awesome. So then the question is, okay, well, if it's as simple as using a survey to figure out this information and putting it into your market, why isn't everybody getting the type of results that we're talking about at the beginning of this presentation? Well, the reason is simple. The reason is because most marketers do surveys wrong. Okay? What I'm going to show you is how to use surveys the right way. But before we dive into all the good stuff, I want to take a moment to answer the second question that I'm always thinking about myself whenever I attend an online training presentation, which is, should I pay attention to the guy who's delivering this training? Is this someone worth listening to? Do I trust this person? Do I believe this person? Should I pay attention to what he has to say? So I want to take a moment, if you aren't familiar with me, and that's the reason why I asked if, at the beginning, if I was a stranger, if I was someone that you were familiar with, I wanted to take a moment to tell you a little bit more about who I am briefly so you can make the decision. So you can decide. You can say, do I want to stick around and listen to what he has to say, or is this not for me? So who am I? My name, Ryan Levesque. People know me as the Funnel Specialist. The name of my company is Funnel Specialists. The reason why I got that name, I was given that nickname by a marketer that Daegan and I both mutually know, is because of some of the results that we've been talking about. So over 3 million leads, 200,000 customers, 23 different markets, over $100 million in online revenue that I've created since installing and using the formula that you are about to get access to. By Funnel Specialist, I mean the #1 golf instruction site in the world, the #1 tennis instruction site in the world, the #2 satellite TV provider in the United States, the number 3 business funding provider in the United States. And by the way, these are all partners of mine and clients that I work with that you will be familiar with. These are names that you would know. The number 1 alkaline health company in the UK and Australia. The number 1 dog training property online. Right now, the number 2 fitness company in the world in terms of all information products sold, both online and through TV infomercials. One of the top 5 weight loss supplements in the United States right now today, all names that you'd be familiar with, and if you saw their websites, you would say, oh, I've seen this work. Now, what you're about to get access to, when I say funnel specialist, I want to give you a sense for how people work with my company and me. So typically, companies will pay us a high upfront fee for us to build one of the funnels that I'm about to show you how to build, plus an ongoing royalty on the results, the revenue generated from that funnel. There's recently a Business Insider article that came out about my company, and you can Google it and Google my name in Business Insider. You can see it's a story of how I took my company from earning $500 a month to $5 million a year from 2008 when I left the corporate world to get into our world to where we are today. Now, in addition to working with our company directly to build the type of funnel that you are about to get access to, in addition to that, I also have a high-level coaching practice where I work one-on-one with 20 CEOs at any one time. That coaching practice where people pay $5,000 a month plus a 5% royalty on any of the results that we get working together. That consulting program has been sold out for the past 18 months, and there are over 100 people waiting to get into that program. Now, the reason why all this is true is because this stuff works. Now, what you see in front of you here is a dashboard from one funnel, one market, in which last year we generated just under $9 million in revenue and $6 million in profit. Okay, and now, if you're wondering, what do I get paid on that? Well, I get paid a nice percentage of that revenue. Now, if you're wondering if the stuff that we're about to go through is only something that applies to 8- and 9-figure businesses, well, the answer is no. So I want to show you that this applies to small businesses as well. So what you see here is another business in which we use the process that I'm about to show you. And last year, we did about $125,000, $126,000 in revenue over the entire year. And while I need to update the slide a little bit, in the first month of 2015, we'd already generated $28,000 in revenue. And right now, we're doing about between $25,000 and $30,000 in revenue, which means that we're on pace to triple what we did last year. Now, lest you think that this is something that only applies to small businesses or existing businesses, let me show you what we do if you're starting from scratch and how you can use this process that we're about to go through in that type of situation. So here's another example of another business that last year we took from absolutely nothing. This was just an idea that we had, an idea to go into a new market where we had zero experience, zero connections, zero credibility, no products, nothing. And we took that business from nothing to 6 figures within the first 12 months, and this year we're on pace to do about $250,000 a year. Okay? Now, what's interesting about all this is that most people go into the consulting or agency business model as a stepping stone to launch their own business, right? People go into consulting as a stepping stone to launch their own information product business, their own e-commerce business, whatever it might be. Well, what's interesting is that I actually took a reverse path. So I talked a little bit about how the Business Insider profiled how my wife and I went from earning $500 a month to growing our business to $5 million a year. Now, what you see in front of you here is the dashboard back in 2008 when we took our first real online business from nothing to $25,000 a month within 18 months using the exact process that you are going to get access to in just a moment. Now, what's interesting about this is we use this process to launch our first 3 businesses outside of the how to make money space. So we started in the jewelry making market, then we went into the gardening market, and then what you see here, which is arguably the most successful of our niche businesses, the memory improvement market, a company that we still own today called Rocket Memory. It's a brand, a series of courses designed to help people improve their memory. and you'll learn a little bit more about that business as we go through a couple case studies here. And that business is simple. So just a brief bit about who I am so you can understand who's on the other end of this conversation. So, and Daegan knows this. So I grew up blue collar, first in my extended family, first person ever in my family to go to college. So going to college was a really, really big deal. And for me, I actually graduated from an Ivy League school. So I went from total blue-collar kid to Ivy League grad at Brown University. And at Brown, I studied and actually taught neuroscience. So I have a proclivity, a propensity, a strong interest in the brain, psychology, and the intersection between psychology and marketing. And you're going to see some of this play out in some of the tactical pieces that I'm going to give you. And by the way, my goal with this whole presentation is to give you some tactical things that you can walk away with, take some really good notes on today, and to begin immediately applying in your business. Now, if you spend a little bit of time, and just to give you a sense for 2008, how I got into this world, after college, I didn't know really what I wanted to do with my life. I worked on Wall Street. I realized I didn't want to go into medicine, but I was still really interested in psychology, became really interested in the psychology of investing. Worked on Wall Street, worked for the investment bank Goldman Sachs. Later on took a position with the financial services company AIG, American International Group. Worked in the insurance industry for a number of years. At Brown, I also studied Chinese, so AIG sent me to China. Ended up running AIG's China expansion across the country of China, where it's opening up sales offices around the country. This is back in 2008. And I had this quarter-life crisis where I was burnt out. My wife was getting her PhD at Hong Kong University in Hong Kong. I was in Shanghai, flying around the country, seeing my wife like every 2 weeks. Had this crazy bi-country marriage. I was living on living out of hotels, flying on an airplane every single week, tethered to the BlackBerry, and basically had this moment where I said, enough. I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I saw the path that I was on, and I saw guys who were in their 50s and 60s who had spent their entire life devoted to building someone else's business. And I said, I don't want to do that. That's not me. And so I started moonlighting as an entrepreneur, moonlighting as a direct response marketer online, playing around with different things. I started studying people like Gary Halbert. I started studying under someone who became one of my biggest mentors, who I know is someone that Daegan has studied under himself, Dr. Glenn Livingston, who happened to write the foreword to my book and is one of my closest friends today. And I studied under these people and started learning some of the bits and pieces that we're going to talk about today, and eventually was able to put it all together. And then one day in 2008, I don't know if you remember this, at the time my wife and I were making a few $1,000s a month in our first online business. I woke up, walked into my office, and picked up the Wall Street Journal Asia edition, and the headline read, AIG to file for bankruptcy. And this was in the middle of the world financial crisis back in 2008 when Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, all these companies went out of business, and AIG looked like they were going to be next. And so I picked up that newspaper. I called up my wife and I said, honey, go to Wall Street Journal, the WSJ.com, go to Wall Street Journal online, and tell me what the headline that you see on the front page says. She looked at it and I said, all right, honey, I think today is the day. I think today's the day that I'm going to resign. And that day I wrote up a resignation letter, dropped it on the desk of my boss, and I said, I'm done. Gave my 2 weeks notice, never looked back. That was in 2008. And we're, gosh, what is it, 2015, so almost almost 9 years later. Haven't looked back and been doing this ever since. That gives you a little bit of background on who I am, so you understand where I'm coming from. And the reason why I want to tell you all this is not so I can brag, not to boost my ego, but so that you can make a decision. Is this someone that you feel comfortable and confident in paying attention to, so that you feel confident in the methodology that I'm about to arm you with? Okay? Cool. So that being said...
Yo, man.
Go ahead, man.
Can I throw in a little editorial?
Sure, man.
So when I first off, let me say this. Whenever I do a webinar, whenever I do a training, ultimately at some point we come back to the idea that if you want to really take your business to the next level, you have to choose who, and you have to really laser target. The more strategically that you can find the exact person and give them exactly what they want, the more you'll crush it. Almost every single time I do a webinar. And every every single time I do that, there's a lot of confusion. Now, Ryan just spoke about one of our friends who he learned this from originally, and I didn't know that until I met Ryan for the first time. And when he started to share what he did, this was a couple years ago, or a year and a half ago, and he showed me what he did. He showed me his process after I had gone through the other. It was like taking quantum mechanics and turning it into like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And so if there's one thing, that is necessary for everyone, it's this right now.
Cool.
You know?
Cool. And that's a perfect segue, Daegan, thank you. It's a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about here, which is before we dive into really why we're all here today, so I want to leave you with this thought, that simplicity is powerful. As entrepreneurs, especially as online entrepreneurs, I don't know about you, but more than once I've been attracted to shiny objects. And I think there's a tendency to always be infatuated by the latest, greatest, next big thing, whatever it may be. And oftentimes it's some sort of short-lived arbitrage opportunity where for 5 minutes, if you do this little trick on Facebook, Facebook doesn't notice and you can get an edge, and then 5 minutes later, the edge is gone and you're having to find that next thing. What I'm about to show you now is a strategy to build that's timeless. It's a strategy that is working as well today, even better today, than it has when I first executed it in 2008. In fact, I have funnels in place, cold traffic funnels, running on Google AdWords traffic and Yahoo Bing traffic that have been in place since 2008 and continue to generate passive income every single month using this exact strategy. When you use what I'm about to show you, it's like building a moat around your business, and you can go to bed at night when your head hits the pillow and sleep well knowing that you're going to wake up the next day, not only with money in your bank, but that this is something that will last for years, not something that you're going to wonder and say, is it all going to go away? With that being said, I want to start by talking about 3 of the biggest mistakes that I see with businesses that I work with. And I want you to think about, as I go through these mistakes, which of these mistakes do you see happening in your business? Okay? Typically, it's 2 of the 3, but ask yourself, which of these 3 are you seeing in your business? The first challenge, problem, or mistake that I see with companies that I work with, and even companies that I talk to, is that the traffic that they're going after is too broad. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. Let's pretend for a moment if you are a local plumber in a place like Austin, Texas, which is where we live. You're in a place like Austin, Texas, and you are a local plumber, and you're advertising on a keyword like, something like local plumber, Austin, Texas, to fix leaky toilet. Okay? If you're advertising on something like that, I mean, let's face it, we can write a pretty good, compelling ad that speaks to someone searching on that keyword, right? I mean, the ad might say something like, in Austin, need a plumber, have a leaky toilet, call us today at 512 whatever. Right? It becomes challenging when we start expanding to broader keywords. Because the trade-off with a keyword like I just described is what kind of volume do you think is available on that type of traffic every single month? Like how many people are typing in that exact keyword? 2? 3? So what happens if we want to go after broader traffic to expand our reach, to scale up what we're doing? Maybe something like plumbing. Or what about something like home improvement? What about advertising on DIY.com? Or what about targeting DIY.com's Facebook fan page? Or what about advertising on Yahoo.com? You see, as we scale up in the type of traffic that's available to us, it becomes more and more challenging to reach those people and do it in a way that scales. And that's why most businesses that I work with hit something that I call the squeeze page ceiling. The squeeze page ceiling is all about the fact that if you have a squeeze page as your primary way to get people into your business, there's a ceiling. You can only take that business so far. You can't scale it in the way that I'm about to show you how to scale. And see, I ran into this problem myself in one of our businesses that I've mentioned, the company called Rocket Memory. Now, when I first went into this market, I expected that we were going to crush it out of the gate. But instead, we hit a wall very early on. And the reason is because that all the traffic in the how to improve your memory space is all centered around keywords like improve memory, how to improve memory, memory improvement. But the problem is those keywords, the people searching on those keywords, represent a spectrum of people ranging from anywhere from an 18-year-old college kid looking for test-taking tips all the way through a 65-year-old man concerned about mental decline and everything in between. So the question is, how do you write an ad? How do you write a opt-in sequence, a landing page? How do you develop a front-end customer acquisition strategy that caters to all those people in that spectrum when you're advertising on one of those keywords? The answer is you can't, unless you use what I'm about to show you. The second big problem that I see with companies that reach out to me that work with us are not knowing why their customers don't buy. So show of hands on this one. Actually, you know what? Go to the GoToWebinar chat. So GoToWebinar chat, just a quick question. I'm curious. What do you consider to be a reasonable sales conversion rate off of cold traffic? Okay, so cold traffic sales conversion rate, I'm looking for a percentage. So the percentage of people who land on your website who become customers. What percent off of cold traffic in scale is something that's reasonable to expect? And I'm just curious. I'll take a moment here and we'll go through some of the answers that come through. And I'm just curious. I'm just curious what people think. So let's go through some of it. Awesome. Okay, so Spence is 1 to 2%, 0.01%, 3%, 5%. Rob says 3 to 5%. Wasty says 1 to 2, 2%. Jean Carlos says 50, 3%. Paulette, 0.1% from Tim. Jeff says 35%. Brett says 7, 1, 5, 3, 3, 10, 3, 100, 3%, 3%, 2%, 0.5%. Awesome. And the answers are just keep coming in. Awesome. Actually, pretty good answers. Generally speaking, you're in the neighborhood if you're doing somewhere about 1%. Meaning that for every 100 people who land on your website, one of them is converting into a customer. So a 1% sales conversion rate. Now what that means is if you're doing 2%, you're doing pretty darn good. If you're doing 5%, I mean, you're crushing it. And if you're doing 10%, as a few people mentioned, if you're doing 10%, let's just say this. You're not hanging out with Daegan and me on this call right now. You're sipping a tropical drink on a Caribbean island that you own. Because 10% cold traffic sales conversion rate means that you are absolutely dominating what it is that you're doing.
Or you don't know yet.
Or you don't know yet, yeah. But if you look at it the other way, right, what that really means is even best case scenario, 90%, 9 out of 10, 90% of all the people who come to your website and all the time, all the money, all the effort, all the energy that you've spent generating that traffic to your website is a complete waste of time. And for some reason in our industry, we just kind of accept those numbers. It's like, yeah, that's what's reasonable to accept. And for me, this frustrates me to no end. Because one of the key secrets to taking your business to the next level, to growing your business, to having success online, is identifying that 90% and finding a way to monetize a portion of it. And I'm going to show you how to do that. The third problem that I see with the businesses that I work with is not knowing what else to sell their customers. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. In fact, actually, we'll make this fun. So go to webinar chat, go to the chat again, and I've got another question. I'm gonna say a sentence, and I want you to fill in the blank. What's the first thing that comes to mind when I say the following sentence? So if I say, the money is in the blank. The money is in the blank. How do you complete that sentence? What's the first word that comes to mind? How would you complete that? I'm just curious to know what's on people's mind. All right, cool. Let's go through some of these. So Charles says money's in the bank. Spence says list, bank, list, follow-up, list, follow-up, list, leads. Cherry says list. Ricardo says list, mail, list. Glenn says honeypot. Nick says list. Trust, list. Mind the buyer, actualize list, follow-up list. Oh, man, Daegan, you guys are awesome. I love the participation here. This is so good. Money's in the bank, questions, relationship, value provide, list, bank, relationship, value. Actually, does anybody say what I exactly have in mind? Any last minute guesses before I reveal what I'm going for? Value provide, relationships with your list, relationship minds. All of these are really good answers. And really, the most common answer that I saw, list, is a variation on what I'm about to say. Money is in the back end. This is huge. The money in the list is really just another way of saying the money isn't in the first thing that you sell to people. The real money is in the second thing that you sell, the third thing. It's in the back end. And see, what's interesting about this is that there are really two types of businesses in the world. There are businesses who are so fixated on making a sale, right? Making that first front-end sale. How do I expand my traffic to make more front-end sales? And then you have other businesses, and they're focused on making profit on that sale. And then you have other businesses that are willing to go in the red, who are willing to go in the hole on that first sale so that they buy themselves a customer. And with that customer, sell that customer more things on the back end. Now the question is, well, why don't more businesses do this? Well, obviously, on the one hand, if you don't have deep pockets, you might not have the ability to go in the red at the front end of your funnel, right? So you're trying to make as much profit as possible initially. But even when you're able to say break even, right? You won't make any money. Why don't more businesses do this? The most sophisticated clients that I work with, so one of my clients is a 9-figure direct response company called Agora. I don't know if anybody on this call is familiar with Agora. They operate in a couple different spaces, in the health markets and the financial markets, and they have a number of different divisions. And they are a 9-figure direct response powerhouse. Agora will go in the red in sometimes over a year. So they will lose money on a customer for over a year before they actually make money. Another business that I do work with is Guthrie Renker. They have a cosmetic line called Proactive. It's a skin product that you've probably seen on television if you're in the United States and sometimes abroad. Guthrie Renker will go in the red even further than Agora, knowing that they can sell more to that customer on the back end. So why is it that these customers, these companies, do that, whereas the vast majority of businesses who spin their wheels don't do this? What's the secret? What is the secret? How do you make that money on the back end? Well, here's something that you want to write down. It's predicated on selling something that sets up the next sale. The first thing that you sell sets up the need for the second thing. And the second thing sets up the need for the third thing. You see, if you've ever been to a bar before, and you've ever sat down at a bar stool, and the bartender, what's the first thing that they do? Before, if it's a non-crowded bar, oftentimes what is it? They put a napkin in front of you and what? A little bowl of peanuts. The peanuts are there to set up the sale. The peanuts are there to make your mouth salty peanuts are there to make your mouth salivate over a drink to get you to buy more drink. That's the most basic example of this in action. So the question is, how do you do this? How do you do this in a way that can catapult your business, not to the next level, but 2, 3, 4 levels from where you are right now? Well, the answer is you need a process. And I'm going to show you how you figure out what else to sell your customer so you can make that money on the back end. So the question is, how do you solve these problems? Well, as you might have guessed, well, the answer is right here. And like I mentioned earlier, because our time is limited and I really want to focus on 3 of the highest leverage parts of this process that focus on solving each of those 3 challenges that we went through, we're going to focus on these 3 boxes here. And these 3 boxes correspond with 3 specific surveys where we are asking questions in a very specific way, to use Daegan's terminology, to become so laser focused on what it is that we're delivering to our customers, to our prospects, that you're virtually guaranteeing your success. So let's first start by talking about how to solve that first problem we talked about of traffic being too broad. And for this one, we're going to focus on the first of the 3 surveys we're going to cover, something that I call the micro-commitment bucket survey. Now let's go through what that is exactly. So here's an example of a landing page, typical landing page on for our business, the Rocket Memory business, which is, as I mentioned, is that series of courses in which we teach people how to improve their memory, which leverages my Ivy League background in neuroscience. So you see this site here. Now this is very typical. Now when we went into this market here, like I mentioned, we struggled. And one of the reasons we struggled is because we were doing what everybody else in the market was doing, which was sending people through a typical opt-in squeeze page sequence. And when we did that, the results are what you see here. Now, what you see in front of you is our Google AdWords account. And what you're looking at specifically in the red is the cost per converted click, which is our cost per opt-in. And the second number is our click to conversion rate, which is our email opt-in percentage, our opt-in rate. Now, looking at these numbers, are these numbers good or are they bad? These numbers are terrible. I mean, every time I do this presentation, I look at these numbers and I think, oh my God, I can't believe, I'm so embarrassed because, I mean, these numbers are just so bad. You cannot make, I'll tell you this right now, you cannot make money in this market acquiring an opt-in at $13 a lead. I mean, I don't know what markets you might be in on this call, but imagine if you're paying $13 to acquire just an email address in your business. You can't make money doing that. And so I was close to giving up. I thought, well, you know, maybe this market, you just can't make it work online. And I said, before I give up, let me go back to, let me think how I would help someone in person. I said, let's take the online thing off the table for a moment. How would I help someone if I were working with them one-on-one? Now, the whole thing about, hey, we're the best, let me jam my free report down your throat before you even know who I am, that approach didn't work, even though that's what I was seeing everywhere in the market. So I thought, well, what would I do? Would I do that? If I met someone in person who said, hey, Ryan, I need help improving my memory, would I go up to them and say, hey, I've got this free report that teaches you exactly how to improve your memory. Here it is. Check it out. No. I mean, that would be like the weirdest, most socially awkward, strange way to interact with someone, you know, in person that you can think of. But here's what I would do. And so I thought about it. If someone came up to me, and when someone would come up to me back on campus when I was teaching this stuff, if someone said, hey, Ryan, I hear you help people with the whole memory thing. Is this something you can help me with? Here's how I would respond. I would say, oh, cool, that's really awesome. You know, well, let me ask you a few questions. Before I can tell you what I would recommend in your case, I really kind of need to know a little bit more about where you are right now, like what you're trying to do. Like, give me a sense for, you know, what are you struggling with? You know, why are you looking to improve your memory? What are some of the things that you've tried before? And here's the thing, if you just take a moment to just tell me a little bit about your situation, I can probably point you in the right direction to what I recommend for people in your particular situation. Would you take a moment to just tell me a little bit about what you're going through right now? So that's what I would do if I met someone in person. So I thought, well, what if I take a similar approach online? And when I flipped the whole process on its head and started asking people what it is that they were struggling with, and then the hook being pointing people in the best possible direction for their particular situation, this is what happened overnight. We took our cost per lead from almost $13 a lead to under $5 a lead, and our opt-in rate from 5% to 12.5%. And if you're doing the math at home, that means that we decreased our cost per lead by 61% and increased our opt-in rate by 143% overnight. But here's the thing. It gets better. Because over time, my bucket survey process evolved to include something that I call micro-commitments. And I know Daegan talks a lot about micro-commitments, so you might be familiar with some of this. Let me show you what I mean when I talk about micro-commitments in this particular context. So again, I thought, well, what if I go back to, again, my background in neuroscience and psychology and think a little bit about how people make decisions, how people make change, how they do things, what goes through their mind whenever they're asked to take a specific action. And see, what's interesting, whenever you ask someone to do something and make any sort of change, whether it's a positive change or negative change, the brain perceives that change as a threat. There's actually an area of the limbic system in your brain known as the amygdala, which regulates something that you're probably familiar with, known as the fight or flight response. And see, what happens is when you ask someone to take a step that's of a certain size, it elicits, it fires off warning bells in that part of the brain, and the brain says, warning, this is a threat. And see, when you ask someone online to take a step that's too big too soon, it's sort of like in person reaching out to someone that you've never met before, saying, hey, come in here for a big sweaty hug, giving them a hug and a big wet kiss on the cheek. Some people might be cool with that, but for the most part, with the exception of maybe a few cultures possibly represented on the phone, that's a little too much too fast. Well, the equivalent of that online is asking someone for their name and email address before you've taken a few critical steps. And so my hypothesis was, well, what if instead of asking people for their name and email right away, what if we broke down the number of steps, the process, the series of steps before that to be so small that it actually hacks that fight or flight response? In other words, flying below the radar. We don't elicit that fear going on in the prospect's brain when they're thinking, do I opt in, do I not opt in? So instead of asking people to opt in and provide their name and email right away, instead we sent people to videos that look like this. And then we asked people a series of non-threatening, simple, multiple choice questions that eventually culminated into an email opt-in step. And when we did that, we went from $4.95, $4.97 to generate an email opt-in to going just over $3 a lead. And from 12.5% opt-in rate to 19% opt-in rate. And now if you're looking at those numbers and you're saying to yourself, well, hey, I get like 50% opt-in rate. We got to remember it's a relative benchmark relative to where you are in your market right now and the traffic. Remember when we talked about doing this and scaling in scale? There are markets that I'm in today, as crazy as, and I wish I had a screenshot because I know you're going to say I don't believe you, and I could pull up a screenshot on my computer if we have time. I have markets that we're doing anywhere from 10 to 12,000 leads per day. Now the memory market is not one of them, in case you're curious. 10 to 12,000 opt-ins per day using this process. And in case you're curious and you're doing the math at home, the original squeeze page process that we started with to this micro commitment bucket survey process that we ended with represented a decrease in our cost per lead of 76% and increased our opt-in rate by 271%. And I know those numbers kind of are like, oh, well, what does that mean exactly? Well, think about it like this. If you're paying $1 per lead today, just imagine in your Facebook account, in your AdWords account, whatever traffic source you're using to drive advertising, paid ads to your business, imagine if you're paying $1 per lead today, and you go to bed tonight, wake up the next morning, and all of a sudden leads are costing you 24 cents. What kind of change, what would that do to your business? Well, the good news is it gets even better when you solve the second problem that we talked about earlier, which is not knowing why your prospects, your non-customers, didn't buy. Now, to solve this problem, we're going to be talking about the next survey in our group of 3 surveys, which is something that I call, and it's come to be known as the Do You Hate Me survey. Now, the Do You Hate Me survey is this. So after, in a typical funnel, like the one you just saw, for example, on the front-end acquisition part of it, typically what I'll do is eventually offer someone the absolute best deal that I can make to get them to buy the product. Okay? Now, I'm not a fan of discounting, but I am a fan of lowering the buying threshold. So, for example, I might offer a $1 trial for something that, 7-day $1 trial for something that, selling at full price. Or it might be a pay half now, pay half later. Or it might be a just pay shipping. Pay the shipping cost now and don't worry about paying the product cost until later. So it doesn't affect the end price. It just lowers the buying threshold. By the way, that's a nice little aside if you're taking notes on a wise strategy to get the people who are on the fence to buy. So that's what I'll typically do. Now, after I've gone through that process, I've offered the absolute best deal that I can possibly offer, still, there's going to be a sizable percentage of people who do not buy. This is where the Do You Hate Me survey comes in. And the Do You Hate Me survey is an email. And the email looks a little something like this. By the way, if you want to jot down some actual tested copy, this is the place that you want to take some notes on this. So subject line in the email might be something like, Do you hate me? And there are different variations on this. It could be, was it something I said? If Do you hate me is a little extreme for your market. You could be, did I do something wrong? The idea is you want to get your prospect's attention by something a little bit that kind of grabs them by the shoulders and shakes them out of whatever state that they're in and gets them to pay attention. So the email might be something like this. Do you hate me? Hey, it's Ryan here, and I need your help real quick. But first, I need to ask you a question. Do you hate me? The reason why I'm asking is because the other day I gave you the chance to try the XYZ program for free or for $1 or whatever you might be doing, but for some reason you passed. And by the way, this email comes after you've offered that absolute lowest possible or best possible deal that you intend on offering. But for some reason you passed, and that's perfectly fine, but it did strike me as a little bit weird, and it did make me wonder. And this is the key language. Is it because of me? Is it something I said? Something I didn't say? Or in other words, do you hate me? And I'll make sure that I put a smiley face or a winky face that they know it's kind of a joke and I'm saying it tongue-in-cheek. Now, you can't see it here, but the email goes on to say, if you could do me a favor, just click on the link below and tell me what's the single biggest reason why you decided not to invest in the XYZ program at this time. It would mean the absolute world to me. Thanks so much. All my best, Ryan. Okay. Simple, right? So what's the big deal? Why do you do this? What's the big payoff? Well, let's go through another case study where we recently executed this strategy, this time in another market. I'll walk you through some numbers. So what you see in front of you here is a dashboard from another account of ours, a client partner account, where we recently sent this strategy to about 22,000 non-buyers. So 22,000 people on the list who did not buy. We got 7,500 people to open, 2,000 people to click, and of those 2,000 people, we got 1,000, what you see here, to fill out this Do You Hate Me survey. And this here, what you see is our Survey Gizmo dashboard. So Do You Hate Me survey. Now, we put it out there, 1,000 responses, and what came back was shocking. So it turns out there were 5 specific trends, 5 specific things that we completely missed the mark on in our marketing. 5 specific objections that we didn't do a good job of overcoming, holes in our marketing. And then on top of that, the thing that was the biggest thing that we missed the boat on, we ran this promotion over a holiday weekend that affected a specific religious group, and we completely underestimated the impact that would have. We had people coming in over the holiday weekend, people coming in the next week saying, oh, I'm so sorry, I wasn't using email, I wasn't using a computer, I was unplugged, I was with family. If I had known about the offer, I would have jumped on this in a heartbeat. So what we decided to do in this case was simple. We said, okay, well, listen, it's unfair to this particular religious group, so let's do this. Let's reopen the offer for 48 hours, and what we'll do is this. We'll hold a webinar. We'll do a webinar, and the focus of the webinar will be to touch on those 5 big objections that we didn't do a good job of overcoming in our initial sales materials. And we'll even put out a couple emails addressing each of those objections leading up to the webinar. So we did that, and here are the results. We picked up an additional 445 sales, representing over $19,000 in income. This is our ClickBank dashboard, income from that Do You Hate Me survey campaign alone. Now, I get that these numbers in a vacuum don't mean anything, and I'm going to backtrack. I'm going to show you the entire campaign so you can see how this fit into the overall picture. But let's just take a look at these numbers for a moment. So we sent this email out to 22,000 people, 7,500 opened, 2,000 clicked, 1,000 filled out the survey, and 445 people bought, which meant that we picked up an additional 2% of non-buyers. Remember at the beginning when we talked about that other 90%? The 90% of that traffic that you send to your website, all the time, all the effort, all the money, all the energy, the people on your list that have never bought anything from you before, and how the secret, the real secret to taking your business to the next level is finding a way to monetize a portion of that 90%? Well, here's one way that you chip away at that 90%, 1% at a time. Now let's provide some context for this, because the number of buyers that we had before the Do You Hate Me survey was 1,238, which means that by picking up 445 additional buyers, we actually grew this business by over 35%, almost 36%, simply by sending out a simple little survey and a few emails after that. But the good news is it gets even better when we solve that third problem we talked about, which is not knowing what else to sell your customers. And this time we're going to use, yet again, another survey to guide our marketing. And this time we're going to use something that I call the pivot survey. Now, what is the pivot survey? The pivot survey is simple. After you've done that Do You Hate Me survey, if you looked at the numbers, yeah, we picked up 445 sales, which is freaking awesome. But we still had 21,000 plus people on that list who didn't buy a darn thing from us. 21,000 people. So yeah, 445 sales is great, but still 21,000 people. So what do you do with all those people who didn't buy? Well, when you go back to the Do You Hate Me survey, what happens is not only do you find the objections to buying the thing that you're trying to sell, you also get a whole bunch of people who say, hey, listen, I'm really interested in what you're doing. I love what you're doing, but to be perfectly honest, that thing is just not a fit for me. And sometimes the reason why it's not a fit is it's just not the right solution. They're looking for a screwdriver and you're giving them a hammer. Sometimes they don't want the hammer, but they want the handyman to come in and fix the thing for them, which means they're not looking to buy something for $97. Maybe they're looking to buy something for $10,000, right? And sometimes it's the other way around. Maybe $97 isn't in their budget, but something at $9.97 might be in their budget. So there's a whole host of reasons why someone might not buy. And the Do You Hate Me survey brings those to the surface, and that leads to the third survey we're talking about, which is this pivot survey. So after you put out that Do You Hate Me survey to the 21,000 people who still haven't bought, what do you do next? Well, this is where you give them the opportunity to choose their own adventure. This is where you give them the opportunity to say, all right, let me raise my hand, and this is where I'd like to go next. So the pivot survey looks like this. Once again, it's in an email. And what you see here are 3 links, and the links take people to one of several directions. So here's an example, and again, this is some copy that you can actually swipe, tested copy. This is in yet another market, so you can get a sense for a few different markets that we use this in. So the copy reads like this. So I'm like the brain surgeon who comes in, does his one piece, saves the guy's life, and then moves on to the next one. There may be 3 people in the world who could do it, and I'm one of them. So the big question is this. What would you like to talk about next? How to get more clients, how to raise your rates, how to productize your services. Now, I know the email gets cut off here, but it goes on to say, simply click on the link above that immediately sounds most appealing, and then starting today, we'll start talking about that new topic. So now, the question is, pivot survey, what are the results? So we use the pivot survey in that example that I just gave you, the one where we sent the 22,000 emails through Aweber. Again, we did about 1,200 initial sales, 445 additional sales from the Do You Hate Me campaign. And then when we added the pivot survey, we picked up an additional 217 buyers, which means, and if you look at the overall revenue impact, we picked up $52,000 in revenue from the initial promotion, an additional $19,000 from the Do You Hate Me survey, and then picking up the pivot survey, an additional $8,000 in revenue, which totaled $27,000 of additional revenue, which without this promotion would have been about a $53,000 promotion. Instead, we did over $80,000, which represented an increase of 51.91%. Now, to put those in terms that might be more helpful, that would be like if you made $100,000 this year, growing your business to $150,000 next year. Or if you made $200,000 in your business this year, going to $300,000 next year, simply by adding a few simple surveys, asking the right questions at the right time, and using that information in the right way. Show of hands, who wants to grow your business by 50% simply by doing a few simple things? Oh, and by the way, this doesn't even include the pivot survey to buyers, so people who actually bought the product in the first place, which is where the real money is. So the stuff is simple, right? Like we said, simple gets results. Over 3 million leads, 200,000 customers, 23 markets, $100 million in online revenue, simply by combining these 3 techniques, the micro-commitment bucket survey, the Do You Hate Me survey, and the prospect pivot survey, which in the overall context of the entire process fit in these 3 red boxes, as well as everything that you see here. Which, if you're like most people, that might be the next question you're asking yourself, which is, okay, I get that these 3 things are important, but how do they fit into the overall context? Like, for example, that micro-commitment bucket survey. How do you get people to actually take that survey? And what questions do you ask? And how many questions? And how do you figure out what buckets to funnel people? So in other words, if you're going to send people into different buckets and use those different buckets to send people to different customized video sales letters or sales messages, how do you decide which buckets to focus on? And after you've actually completed the survey, what do you actually send people to next? So they've done that initial micro-commitment bucket survey. How are you selling to them in what we call a same-visit sale? And what about the one-click upsell sequence? Are you doing upsells? And if so, what do they look like? And by the way, the answer is yes. There are 3 specific formulas that I use for upsells, and that all ties back to the way in which someone answers those initial micro-commitment bucket survey questions. And you might say, I get the value of the Do You Hate Me survey and the pivot survey, but how do they fit into the overall context? In other words, I get how they work, but the reason why they work as well as they work probably isn't because of how they operate in a vacuum. And if you guess that, you're right. It's how the lead-up leads to those particular emails. And that just scratches the surface. Now, what you see in front of you here is something that's come to be known as the survey funnel formula. Now, what I want to do now is walk you through the process of how you set up one of these survey funnel, using the exact 6-week process that I use, that my team and I use. And by the way, I have a company of 25 people that we use when we set one of these up every single day. Okay? So here's the process in case you're curious on how you set it up yourself. So in the first week, we do something that we call the deep dive pre-survey. This is yet another survey. This is something that we didn't even have a chance to talk about today. But this is the survey that sets the foundation for everything else. This is how we figure out what buckets exist in the market. This is how we figure out which people to focus on, which questions to ask, if we're going to focus on gender, if we're going to focus on age, if we're going to focus on psychographic information. What is it that we really care about? This deep dive pre-survey process is what sets the table for everything else. This is how we identify what the hot buttons are in the market. We actually can take this survey to generate the copy that we use in our sales letter, our video sales letter, our landing page, our emails, every bit of copy. It all starts with this. Then once we've run that process, we build out that micro-commitment bucket survey. This is where we're figuring out which of those multiple choice questions we're going to be asking to send people through to hack that fight or flight response, to take people from where they are to the opt-in process in a way that builds up action-taking momentum and gives us a much higher opt-in rate and a much more qualified prospect, knowing all the information about them beyond just name and email than we would otherwise. Then we build out the prospect, what I call the prospect discovery landing page in video, and this is really the page that people land on that convinces them, that makes filling out the survey compelling. Because I'll give you a hint. If you call it a survey, if you say, hey, take this survey, you're not going to get much action. You see, the secret behind this whole process is even though we are talking about this as a survey, the prospect himself or herself doesn't even realize what they're doing is filling out a survey. In the fourth week, we build out what I call the same visit sale video sales letter. So this is what they see after, this is what a prospect sees after they go through the survey itself and how you sell to them. This is how you monetize that traffic on the initial visit that they make. And then in week 5, we build out our profit maximization upsell sequence, which is how remember we talked about the money being in the back end? Well, we have 3 specific formulas that we use based on how someone answers that initial micro-commitment bucket survey to determine what upsells we're going to be putting in place. And then in week 6 is where we build out the email autoresponder sequence, and that includes both the prospect sequence, the non-buyers, and the buyers. Now, a year ago, I was in a mastermind. And I was in the mastermind, and I presented in a hot seat that I had this challenge. And my challenge was pretty simple. Challenge was that I had been using this methodology myself, the survey funnel formula methodology, to get into all these markets. At the time, I had successfully entered 17 different markets. The number now is 23. And I had this overwhelming demand for people who want to work with me personally to set this up in their business. And my rates at the time were started at 50, 60, 75,000 plus an ongoing monthly retainer, plus an ongoing royalty. And I said, there's so much demand for what I'm doing, I need a way to scale. And so the way I'm scaling is I'm bringing people into my team, training them up on this methodology, and I want to be able to pass on some of the workload to them. And my idea is I'm going to take those people through in my company, my exact process, so they can watch me go through and build out, design, come up with the concepts, go through the actual step-by-step process of building out one of these funnels from start to finish, learn the psychology of every single step, get into the nuances of the language and how we actually make each step so persuasive and compelling so that they master the process. What do you think about the idea? I threw it out to the mastermind. I said, what do you guys think? Basically, he said, yeah, that's the way to go, man. I mean, create a training, internal training area, take people through your process, have them replicate it, and that's the way to go. And then someone in the back of the room raised their hand and said, Ryan, I don't know if you'd be open to this, but I'd love to sit in on that training with your team that you've hired. Would you be open to pulling back the curtain and sharing your process with us here? And then basically one by one around the room, heads started nodding and Everyone started raising their hands saying, yeah, I'd love to do that too. And up until that time, it's not something I ever considered. Because you see, my entire business, the way I've generated all my wealth, all my success, is through this formula. This is literally my secret family recipe. This is what I've used to generate all our success. And so at the time, it wasn't something that I really considered. But I decided to give it a shot. I let a few people outside my company in on this training with me when I taught it live with the intent of training up my internal team. And the people who went through that training were blown away. They went through it and they said, Ryan, I have never seen anybody do what you do. This is absolutely amazing. Now they said that, but I asked for honest feedback, and I said, okay, well there has to be something that you're not, that gets you hung up. What is it? And they said, well, the one thing that I've noticed about your stuff, Ryan, and why it's so compelling and powerful that you didn't cover is your copy. The fact that your copy is so strong. And so I decided to give those people who went through that initial training with me something that I'd like to offer you today when you move forward to get access to that same training today. And that gift that I want to give you is as follows. It's a program that I developed with a marketer that some people on this call might be familiar with. It's a program called VSL Fast Track, how to write landing page VSLs, same visit sale VSLs, upsell VSLs, even if you're not yet a world-class copywriter. Now, if you're not familiar, this is a program that I developed with a marketer by the name of John Benson back in 2011. John and I teamed up to create a course that teaches people how to craft compelling VSLs. And John and I sold hundreds of copies of this course, and we did very well with this program. We sold hundreds of copies at that $497 price point. And then one day in 2011, John got back to me and said, hey, Ryan, so I love that this is working so well. In fact, people love this so much, I think we're undercharging for what we're doing. And so I would like to create a separate program that I'm going to sell for $2,000, $3,000, a more high-end program. And in order for me to do this, I cannot have this on the market at the same time because it will cannibalize our sales. And he said, we have to take this off the market. And initially, I was, we kind of disagreed on that, and I, wanted to continue selling it because it was doing so well. But eventually, I gave in to John. I said, all right, that's cool. I'm happy. I want to see you succeed, and I'm happy for you to do that. My only request is this: that even though I'm not able to sell this, or we're not going to sell this ever again to the general public, I want to be able to give this as a gift to any of my high-level clients or any customers who invest in any sort of other training with me down the road. And John agreed. And so the reason why I'm telling you this today is because when you move forward with the training that I'm about to reveal to you and give you access to, I'd like to give you a copy of this course that you cannot buy. You cannot buy. This course is off the market. You literally cannot buy it. And the reason you cannot buy it is because if anybody's followed John Benson's work now, you know that the programs that he's sold since then have sold at a much higher price point. And this is the only place to get access to this training at this price point. And by the way, in case you're wondering what's the value in this training, here's what one member, Jonathan, had to say about the results he got simply by executing just in this bonus alone. Jonathan writes, I jumped into the VSL thing and I was able to create a funnel that's converting 250% better than my old video. And that's cool. But the question you're probably asking is, all right, well, how much is this 6-week survey funnel recorded live training going to cost? What kind of investment is this going to be? And whenever I've offered this training in the past and I've gotten to this point, people have said, well, you should be charging anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 for this training. It's A, that good, and B, that comprehensive. In fact, if you compare it to trainings like Jeff Walker's product launch formula, and Jeff is a friend of mine, there's precedent to charge at that price. And to be perfectly honest, that's really what this training is worth. But see, my objective isn't to sell this course at $1,000. In fact, what I want to do is I want to get this methodology, this technique, this strategy in as many people's hands as possible. And in order for me to do that, I know I can't sell at that price point. And so instead of selling this for $2,000 or $1,000 or even $797 or even $497, you can get access to my entire survey funnel formula training plus the VSL Fast Track bonus for just one payment today of $197. And that's it. Now, the only place that you can get access to this training is through this link here, surveyfunnelformula.com/Daegan. In fact, Megan, would you do me a favor and put this link in the chat so everybody can see it? surveyfunnelformula.com/Daegan. And actually, would someone just do me a favor? Could you just click on that link or type in the URL? You know, Daegan's going to give me crap for this, but Daegan has one of the toughest names to spell, and I always have to look it up to make sure I'm spelling it right. I want to make sure I didn't make a mistake on this, so it should be Daegan, D-A-E-G-A-N. Could someone just click on that and let me know in the chat if the link is working? If you just do me that favor. Awesome. Okay, cool. Super appreciate that. Okay, listen, so I'm going to take a moment to answer a bunch of questions because I see there are a whole bunch of questions that are coming through. So if you have questions, I want to take a moment to do that. But I just want to answer a few things real quick. And then the first question that you should be asking yourself, if you haven't already asked yourself, is, all right, well, what's the catch, dude? Like, all right, you're supposedly making all this money, right? Like I saw the Business Insider article. I see how you're doing $5 million a year. You're making all this money, and you're basically giving away your secret family recipe for like $197. Like, what's the deal? Well, here's the deal. So there are two things that happen. So 2.5 years ago, I had this experience. Basically 3 years ago, I had this experience when my first son was born, where I started getting sick. I started losing a lot of weight. We didn't know what was going on. And I was tired all the time. I was thirsty all the time. I started losing all this weight. And long story short, I applied for life insurance because my wife had kind of asked me gently to apply for life insurance after the birth of our first son. And I was denied. And the reason I was denied was because my lab results were off the charts. And I had just turned 30. And I was otherwise in good shape, didn't think there was anything wrong. And I get the lab results and the life insurance letter in the mail, and I call up our life insurance agent and I say, well, there must be some mistake here. Like I was, the letter says rejected. What's up? And he said, not only, well, Ryan, you need to sit down. He said, not only is the letter accurate, I also have your lab results in front of me. And at the time, I didn't have my results. They have to law here in Texas that they have to ship them to your life insurance agent first, and then life insurance agent, can either fax them to you or email them to you. So I have your lab results in front of me, and listen, I'm not a doctor, but your numbers are off the charts. And he gave me my numbers. And I started looking things up, and basically the numbers said kidney failure, renal system shutdown, pancreatic failure. And I kind of had that moment where it's like, you're like, this is not, like, you have that denial, right? Like, this can't be happening. But then I started kind of panicking in my own head and putting two and two together, and the weight loss and the thirst and constant exhaustion, which I had attributed to just being a first-time dad. Like, I just thought, okay, I'm not getting a lot of sleep as a dad. I'm just tired. I'm running this fast-growing company and blah, blah, blah. And eventually my wife, later that night after we put our son to bed, asked me, well, hey, I saw the life insurance letter. Like, what's up? Are we all set? And I showed her the letter, and I showed her the results, and she started freaking out and panicking. And so she called that night. She thought about going to the emergency room, but she called to schedule an appointment at the doctor's the next day, first thing in the morning. We went to the doctor's. They got me retested on the lab results. And after the results came in, the doctor basically grabbed me by the shoulders, looked me in the eye, and said, Ryan, you need to go to the emergency room right now. You're not driving. you should be in a coma. And we rushed to the emergency room. I spent about 2 weeks in the ICU. I had about 25 pounds of fluids and medicine pumped back into me. My kidneys were shutting down. My liver was shutting down. My pancreas stopped working completely. I was urinating blood. And long story short, I slipped into a state known as DKA, which is diabetic ketoacidosis. And DKA is a state you slip in that children find out that they are juvenile diabetics. So when you're a kid, you find out you have juvenile diabetes. This is the state that you fall into. And it turns out that I was an extremely rare case, very rare, as a man in his 30s who became a type 1 diabetic, and I almost lost my life. And so I spent the 2 weeks in the ICU, and there I had a lot of time to think about what I wanted to do with my life and the type of impact that I wanted to have. And I came out of that hospital with a tremendous amount of clarity about what I wanted to do. And I'd achieved significant financial success up to that point. And certain things became more important to me. So one of the things that became more important to me was impact. It's one of the reasons why I published this book. And it's one of the reasons why I've decided to basically share my secret family recipe with the world. Because when you find out you're type 1 diabetic and you come as close to death as I came, your life expectancy isn't what it is coming into that experience. Like, my life expectancy is not what a typical healthy American male is. It's substantially shorter. I don't know how long I'm going to be around. I'm not going to die tomorrow, but I don't know how long I'm going to be around. I've got 2 young boys, and I made a decision that I wanted to make the biggest type of impact I could make in the world with whatever time that I do have. And so rather than keep my secrets to a small number of 25 high-level private clients, I want to get this in as many people's hands as possible. And in order for me to do that, I need to make this available at a price point that's affordable for virtually anybody. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is this. I also play the long game. And what I mean by that is my goal here is not to make $197 off of this product with you. My goal, practicing what I preach, is the money is in the what? The money is in the back end. And see, I do this every time I've offered this presentation and every time I've offered this course. What happens is, for every 100 people today who sign up and say, yes, I'm in, I'm moving forward, I want to get access to this, 2 or 3 will reach out to me and say, hey, Ryan, this is absolutely brilliant, but I'm in the category of having more money than time. How much would it cost for your company to just do the whole thing for us? And selfishly, that's the reason why I make this available at this price point. That's the reason why. That's the catch, is that I know that a tiny fraction of people, and all it takes is a tiny fraction. It doesn't have to be you, but there are 1 or 2 people on this call right now who are going to reach out to my company and say, I'd rather pay you $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 to have your company do it for you, do it for me, than implement it myself. And that's the reason why that this program is available at this price. Now, if you go to surveyfunnelformula.com, you will not be able to get this program. This is literally the link that you have right here. This is the only link in the world to get access to this program. The reason why we do that is simple. You see, my company, we're set up to work with a small number of high-level businesses. I'm not a company set up to work with 1 million small businesses. So we only periodically make this program available, and we do it in a very limited way with 1 partner so we can make sure that we can take care of you when you come through the door. And the reason is simple. You are going to be getting access to my company internal training area. Okay? We're actually going to set you up as if you were an employee of my company. I'm going to set you up. My assistant, Kimberly, is going to set you up with an actual username and password to our internal training area, which you'll get access to. By the way, she'll set you up manually. It's not an automatic thing. So if you order right now and you haven't gotten access, it'll be probably later today, and she's going to set you up. Okay, so those are a few things. Now, I want to mention something else before we get to Q&A, and that's this. I realize that even though we spent a little bit of time together, I remember, most everyone on this call said that I'm a stranger, right? That you didn't know who I was at the beginning of this call. And so I recognize that an hour and a half really isn't enough time to really get to know if something is right for you. So here's what I want to do. I want to give you an opportunity to check out this entire program, this entire process for yourself before having to decide if it's right for you. And here's how this works. I want to give you access to the first 4 weeks of the course before you even have to decide if you want to keep it. The way this works is really simple. You've got a full 4 weeks to go through everything in the course. You can watch all the videos. And by the way, everything is recorded. Everything is there. When you sign up for the course, you will have permanent access, so nothing disappears. You don't have to worry about missing any live calls. It's all right there. You'll get access to all the recorded videos. You'll get access to all the templates, all the cheat sheets, all the examples, all the notes, all the transcripts to the copy. You'll be able to watch everything. Everything is broken down into bite-sized videos. You'll be able to download everything to your hard drive. You'll be able to try everything yourself. You can go through the first 4 weeks of the course before you have to decide if you want to keep it. And if at that point you decide it's not for you for any reason or no reason at all you got to do is just send a one-line email to Kimberly or Megan, one of my customer service managers, and Kimberly will take care of you. In fact, Megan, why don't you put Kimberly's email address in the chat right now. It's just contact@RL Associates LLC, and Kimberly can help you with anything that you might have. So you can just put perfect. If you have an issue, just reach out to Kimberly. Just let her know that I sent you there. She'll take care of you. Kimberly's a sweet woman. Interestingly enough, there's a lot of babies happening in our business right now. Kimberly just had a baby a couple months ago. Megan is about to have a baby in about a month. We've got a 6-month-old at home, so there's a lot of babies in our business right now. So all I ask is just be sweet, be nice, and she'll treat you great in return. Now I want to get to Q&A, but I want to answer a question that I know people have had, which is, Ryan, this is great. You've gotten all this amazing results, but what about everybody else? What about all the people that have gone through your training? What about all the people like me? Well, let's take a moment to go through some of those real quick, and then we're going to take some time to go through any questions you might have about the training that we've gone through today. So Will writes, this is the best and most comprehensive use of the surveying and segmenting technique that I've seen to date. Darren says, I use the layering technique you mentioned and now getting a 53% opt-in rate from Facebook traffic after they self-qualified through a 3-question survey. Ron writes that using the process and the work together, the project has resulted in over $500,000 in revenue. Antonio says, I purchased a while back. I didn't really know if I'd get through the whole thing. But I started to dive in and clients have gotten great results. In fact, one client has had over 700 leads generated from this business using this, which turned into over 6 figures in coaching clients. And Darren says, like you mentioned, ours is really half-assed at this point. He's talking about his survey funnel. Ours is really half-assed at this point. It's still producing a 40% lift in total monthly revenue year over year. And Brandon writes, by building a survey funnel and following Ryan's model, I was able to go from a 70% ROI losing money to a 150% ROI making money. Corey writes, so survey funnel formula rocks. Since buying Survey Ryan's course, I landed a cold traffic funnel client for $20,000 and 10% of funnel earnings plus a % of media spend. And Sean Mizell writes, simply by following the formula and pathway that Ryan has laid out in the program, I secured an $84,000 contract. Now, Sean is using this methodology to get business, an $84,000 contract from this client to start in January of 2015 with a deposit up front. And people like Ryan Dice are customers and clients of mine. Ryan says if paid traffic is what you're after, then you're wise to study Ryan Levesque. His stuff is built for scale. In fact, if you look at just some of our past customers and clients, we've got people like Ryan Dice. Perry Marshall is a private client of mine. Brian Kurtz, who's formerly the Executive Vice President of Boardroom Inc. Keith Baxter, Andre Chaperone, a mutual friend of Daegan's of mine. Ben Settle, another mutual friend. Jack Bourne, Harlan Kilstein, Danny Inney, Kurt Malley, Keith Krantz, who co-wrote the Entrepreneur's Guide to Facebook Advertising. Kevin Rogers, who's largely regarded as one of John Carlton's top proteges. Michael Lovitch, Buck Risby, Steve Gray, Erica Rocha, Marisa Murgatroyd, Charles Kirkland, Greg Wells, Todd Brown is a friend and customer. Russell Brunson, who's a good friend of Daegan's and a friend and customer of mine. Daegan Smith, right here in the flesh on this page. Jonathan Mizell, Derek Johansson, Ryan Lee. The list goes on and on. And if you look at the companies that are using and working with us, we have Fortune 500, Inc. 500 companies, companies that you'd be familiar with. And if you remember, the very same methodology that you're going to be getting access to is the same thing that CEOs right now are paying $5,000 a month to be part of my Inner Circle private coaching group. I've got 20 people in that group. It's been sold out for the last 18 months with over 100 people on the wait list. And if you look at the results that those people are getting, and these are, by the way, audio interviews where people have verbally said in their own words the exact results that they're getting. If you spend time on our site, you can look at these. Literally tripled my profit this year. Huge upticks in revenue out of the gate. The survey funnel strategy alone increased front-end conversion by 100%, increased sales by $15,000 per week. In fact, there were over 100 audio testimonials and audio case studies from people who have used this methodology that you're about to get your hands on in their business. And just to sum things up before we get to Q&A, everything that you get access to the 6-week recorded previously taught live training program that is part of our internal company training area that you will get a login as if you were an employee, one of my team members. I will set you up with your own private login. You get access to the entire 6-week training program. You also get access as a super bonus to the VSL Fast Track program that I developed with John Benson, which you cannot get anywhere else. We sold hundreds of copies of that course for $497. All for just one payment today of $197 by visiting the link surveyfunnelformula.com/Daegan. That's D-A-E-G-A-N. Now, with that being said, I'm going to take a sip of water, and I'm going to go through any questions that might have come up along the way. So give me 1 second. Cool. All right. Cool. So John writes, the variable answers to the survey determines which products are in the upsell funnels and the appropriate copy slant. Exactly. And you see exactly, I walk you through exactly how we do this. Now, the key with this, and you'll see this in the course as you go through it, and I know there's some people who are saying, hell, I'm in. I'm really excited to see you guys here. Awesome. Awesome. I'll get to some of these questions. Cool. Cool. Great. Yeah, you'll see exactly. See, the key here is doing it in such a way that gives you the customization without going overboard. See, the thing that happens, the thing that trips people up who see this, they get caught in the weeds. They get caught in the complex. They think, oh crap, this is going to be really complex. How am I going to make this work? And there's a sweet spot. Okay, I'll give you like an example of what I mean by sweet spot. So I found, this is one that, by the way, this is a writer downer. The sweet spot is 3 to 5 different variants, 3 to 5 different buckets that you focus on in your marketing. If you try to have a customized sales sequence for 12 different buckets in your market, you're going to get, it's too much work. You're never going to get it off the ground. But if you only do 1 or 2, then you're not taking advantage of the 80-20. You're not taking advantage of the maximum return for minimum work. Okay, we could spend the next 10 hours talking about this. Would this be applicable to affiliate marketing, or need to have a high-end back-end product? No, this is brilliant for affiliate marketing. In fact, I tell people, if I lost it all tomorrow, if I lost all my connections, all my money, if I lost my list, if I lost everything except for the knowledge in my head, I'll tell you exactly what I would do. I would pick one of the 3 big markets, health, wealth, or relationships. I would go into the market. I would research all the affiliate offers that are available. Okay? And I would figure out which affiliate offers are convert for each segment of the market. Let's take, for example, the health market, maybe like weight loss, just to keep it really super duper simple. So you get into the weight loss market, and you run a survey funnel that asks people a series of questions about who they are. So first question might be, are you a man or woman? Next question, what describes your age? Are you in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s? Okay. As a woman in your 40s, using the survey methodology that you'll discover in the course, which of the following best describes how you're looking to lose weight? I'm trying to get rid of the cellulite under my thighs. I'm trying to get rid of my jiggly arms. I'm trying to get rid of I'm trying to have a flat belly. Okay. They choose one of those options. And you take them down that path. And based on the questions that they answer in that micro-commitment bucket survey, you send them into one of several directions. Each of those directions corresponds with, guess what, an affiliate offer. So instead of trying to pitch one affiliate offer, what you're doing is you're sending them to the most appropriate affiliate offer for them. See, this is how you add value. This is how you win the affiliate game. And this is exactly, if I had to start over from scratch myself, that's exactly what I would do. All right. Awesome. Larry says, thanks for sharing your health situation. I know about diabetes, runs in my family. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. Cool. Do you use WordPress plugins for surveys? In the training course, what I do is I walk you through a couple different options that you have. So I walk you through third-party software like Survey Gizmo. You saw a screenshot there. I walk you through using free software like Google Docs. Google Forms is a form of totally free software. And then I walk you through, we actually have our own proprietary software, which you can learn about at surveyfunnelsoftware.com. I have my own software that we use for our own client implementations that we've made available on a retail basis. This is what we actually use. And I walk you through how to use each of those three options, as well as if you want to go down the road of having something custom coded. Like if you don't want to use a third-party software and you want to pay a developer to set this up for you, I'll walk you through that option as well. So really you've got all the options at your disposal. You've got the free option. You've got third-party paid software. You've got our software, which naturally I'm biased and I recommend because that's what we actually use. It's designed to execute this exact process. It integrates with ClickFunnels. It integrates with lead pages. It integrates with all the popular page-building platforms out there, WordPress. It integrates with straight-up HTML and CSS pages. And by the way, after you, in case you're wondering, are there any upsells? Because I know that's a question that's come up when I've done this before. Are there any upsells? I don't, am I just paying this $197? Is there any upsells? The answer is this: the most amount of money you can spend with me today, with this, and with my company and here today, is $197. That's it. After you sign up for the training, you will be presented with an option, if you'd like, to raise your hand and say, yes, Ryan, I would like to be part of your community of survey funnel creators after I've gone through the training. And the reason why we do this is simple. We want everybody to go through this initial training so you have a basic understanding of this process before you become part of our community. And when you do become part of that community, you have a special opportunity to get access to our software for free. So, in other words, you can get access to our software, which sells for $100 a month. You can get access to that software for free when you become part of our community. Now, it's a separate program. You don't have to become part of that community. It's not mandatory. It's not required in any way, shape, or form. What you have access to, get access to right now, or the opportunity to get access to right now, is the training that teaches you up on the entire methodology. I'm not tech savvy. Is this simple to set up? I'm not tech savvy at all. It's designed for someone who doesn't have the most technological background, because I'm definitely not a tech person myself. Okay, does it integrate with Optimized Press? The answer is yes. Awesome. Jason says, I missed the entire webinar until the offer and I'm in. Awesome. Really excited to see you here, Jason. Let's see. Okay, answer that question. All right. Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. Chris said the story really hit me. Yeah, I had some tears. Sometimes when I tell the story, I break out in tears myself because I don't know if any of you guys have young kids at home, but I've got a man, Chris. I'm gonna smack you. I got a 3-year-old boy and I got a 6-month-old son, and just the thought of not being around for them is tough. So, I kind of want to leave a, if you have kids, you know how it is. Like, you want to leave a mark. You want to set that good example. So, anyways, we don't have to talk about it. But no, I appreciate it, man. Okay, so the difference between the deep dive survey, the micro commitment survey, and the pivot survey. Okay, deep dive survey is a survey. We didn't talk about that one here on this call. Deep dive survey is a survey you run once. That's an open-ended survey. That requires, we could spend 4 hours talking about that because there's some very important nuances and intricacies. And that's what a big part of the, actually module 1 of the course, we'll go through that in detail. I'll show you what questions to ask, how to interpret the data, how to analyze the data, all that. There's a lot, there's quite a bit to it. So that's the first part of the process, is this deep dive survey. We didn't talk about that one on the call. Next up, and that's not permanently part of your funnel. You do that once, it's your research. That's the research phase of things. Then you use that research to design your micro-commitment bucket survey. That's the one where you're asking one multiple-choice question at a time, like we showed in the memory example. That does become a permanent part of your funnel. Okay. Next up is the Do You Hate Me survey. That you can look at that as kind of like a feedback survey, right? So you do the micro-commitment bucket survey, you funnel people in buckets, but you're not going to have a 100% success rate. So the Do You Hate Me survey is how you get feedback, and that's how you iterate your sales process. So you ask people, why didn't you buy? They tell you, and you say, oh, maybe we should make this tweak. And you constantly make that refinement. So what happens is you have this constantly refining sales process that eventually you reach to a point where you get to the point of diminishing returns and you don't have to do that anymore. And then last but not least, you have your pivot survey, which is how the whole thing ends, and you can send people to path A, B, or C, and you start the whole thing over again. In fact, this is how we string together survey funnels in one right after another in many markets. We have some markets where we string 6, 7 of these survey funnels together. So, for example, we look at we look back to the flow chart for a moment, and I'll get back to that for a second. You can string those together one right after another. So you build one, you put it in place, you're done with that one. Where do you pivot people to? Your next survey funnel. And like I said, we do these in market after market, one right after the other. All right, let's see. Oh, how long will the page be open for? Great question. This offer is only available, and write this down, through this Sunday at 11:59 Pacific Standard Time. And the reason for that is simple. Like I said, we want to get people in, get moving, and take care of people who move forward. We don't keep this open, on a regular trickle basis. I kind of have my team on standby right now. I know we've been getting kind of a flood of people coming in. I can see the orders coming through, so we want to make sure you get taken care of. And then after this Sunday, that's it. So I highly recommend, if you're on this live, if you happen to be on this live training right now, to get in now. So go to the link surveyfunnelformula.com/Daegan. Do it now while you got the screen in front of you, before you forget. You don't want, what's going to happen, right? I don't know what time of day it is for you, if it's nighttime or daytime. Like for me, I know what happens. Afternoon comes around, kids come home, I get distracted, I want to play with my son, and then before I know it, the day is done, and then I move on to the next thing in my life, and then I get that email that's like closed. I'm like, oh crap. And I write to the customer service, and one of the things that I'm a big believer in is sticking to our word. And so the deadline truly is 11:59 Pacific Standard Time this Sunday. I like to be fair to people. I like to honor our words. So if you write in on Monday, we'll unfortunately say it is closed. And I'm fortunate to be in the position, we don't need the money. It's not like we need the sale. So it's not like I would compromise my word to take on the $197. Really, I'm kind of doing this for other reasons. So we will stick to that. So I just want to be totally upfront and fair about that. So if you are listening to this right now, just get it out of the way. Log into PayPal, log into get your credit card, whatever. Just get it done, because I'd hate for you to miss out if you forget. Okay, will the modules be delivered on a week-by-week basis, or will everything be accessible right away? It's a great question. So the way the course is designed is that it's dripped out 1 week at a time, so you can follow along with me in real time and build out. We take 6 weeks to build out one of these funnels. I'm not going to lie to you, it's not like a week and it's done. It takes us 6 weeks to go through the process, and you get to follow along with us in real time. That being said, I know some people are like, oh man, I've got I'm locked myself in a hotel this weekend, and I want to just go through the training, or I've got a huge layover on the traveling, and I want to just go through it. If you want to get access to everything all at once, just send an email to Kimberly, and she'll explain how we can make that happen for you. Okay, and that email address again is contact@RL Associates LLC. Cool. Let's go through any other questions that have come through. Done for you program with affiliate commission consultant who refers the client. Done for you program with an affiliate commission consultant who refers the client. Yeah, we can potentially do that, John. So I saw your question about done for you program. We have an agency where we do this, and the answer is yes. Connect with me on Facebook. I can put you in touch with the person on my team that's responsible for this. Will you send the offer through in an email? Jeff, I'm not sure I understand your question. Sorry. Sorry about that. I have German Wolf. I'm not sure I understand your question. Sorry. I have ACO. How can I correct it? I'm not exactly sure. Sorry about that. Maybe you can rephrase your question. Cool. Anyways, good. We're a little bit past the time. We are at 17 minutes past what I wanted to be, and I want to be respectful of your time. I want to fulfill the 2 promises that I made at the beginning, okay? So the first one is this. First one is to get access to the flowchart. If you want to download that flowchart so you can print it up, put it on your, your computer monitor, your background, blow it up, go to surveyfunnelformula.com/free. surveyfunnelformula.com/free, and we just put together literally we just put together a quick little form. Enter your name and email, and we'll shoot you an email with the high resolution graphic of the flowchart. So that's the first thing. Second thing, and this, by the way, you got to keep this next thing like super duper quiet because I seriously have never done this before, and I'm not. I'm totally being honest with you about this. So please just do me this favor. If you want to get a free digital copy of my book, here's the kind of backdoor page that I put together on this real quick. So if you go to askformula.com/ebook-offer, ebook-offer. This book, I told a little bit about my story. I didn't tell the whole thing. This book tells a lot more of the story, how I arrived at this methodology, how I came up with it, the failure I had along the way, the days when, crap, we were living in Brownsville, Texas at one point. My wife was making $36,000 a year as a museum curator, and we were living in a $500 a month apartment. And our only furniture were these 2 lawn chairs we got when we opened up our business bank account. Like those lawn chairs you see that parents sit in on the side of like their kid's soccer game. That was our living room furniture. We had like a crap TV that we got for like $5 at the Goodwill. No cable. We're just like bunny ears. Anyways, the book tells the story of how we went from struggle to success, as well as bits and pieces of how we did it. So if you'd like to get a copy of that, go to that URL. It'll kind of look like this. Enter your full name, email. And this is important. You have to choose which preference of the book, the formats of the book you'd like to get. The book goes live worldwide April 21st, so we're still a few weeks away. And we will email, you will get your copy of the book digitally after the book releases worldwide. So it won't be, it's not like an ebook, like a PDF that'll be sent to you. You'll actually get it in that format, okay? So hopefully that's going to keep that really quiet. Cool. Cool. Awesome. Thanks a lot, Nick. I appreciate it, man. Cool. Yeah, man. Chris is asking, do you ever feel like you're kind of on your own? And yeah, that's, totally. I think as entrepreneurs, we all find ourselves kind of on our own, like when you're the boss, right? That's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this community that we've built. We have over 800 people now who are in this community, who are, it's a paid community, who have successfully not only gone through this program, this training, but they're implementing these survey funnels in market after market themselves. And that warms my heart more than anything else, because we're kind of in it together, right? It's like we've got this we're kind of band of brothers thing going on, where we're all on our own, doing our own thing, and then we come together and we've got this online community We got a private, Facebook group, and we kind of all know each other, and that's really, really cool. And Nick, yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate those kind words. John, so the training starts immediately. So it's recorded. It's a recorded 6-week training program. So if you sign up like right now, click on the link and sign up, then probably this afternoon, Kimberly will set you up with access, and you'll be able to start diving right in right away. So you'll get access right away. Cool. So with that being said, wow, I can't believe how many people, gosh, how many people, like, usually you're on webinars like this. I don't know if you've been on webinars and it's like, oh, everyone kind of drops off. Like something like 95% of people are still here. This is really, like, you guys are awesome. So Daegan just sent me a message saying that he had to run, and so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say thank you for spending this afternoon with me. I hope this was worth your time. Time is precious, and I have such a deep appreciation for that, so I really wanted to make this worth your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for your attention and for being here with me and just being present. Means the world to me. I'm going to give a shout out to Daegan. I mean, as you guys know, Daegan's the man. I've learned a lot from him. I'm a student of Daegan, so you should continue to be a student of his. And the last thing that I'll say is this. If this is something that you're kind of interested in, or maybe just curious to see how it works, and if there might be a place for using this survey funnel process in your business, don't try to decide right now if it's right for you before at least checking it out. Like, click on the link, go to surveyfunnelformula.com/Daegan, D-A-E-G-A-N. Go to, enter your payment information, get in, get the login from Kimberly, click on the link, go in, start watching the videos, go through it, start trying some of the stuff. Even if you pick up like 1 or 2 ideas, this is the type of thing that it's going to make a huge difference. And if for some reason you start going through the training, you're like, it's not really right for you for whatever reason, or even no reason at all you got to do is send us an email. Just send us a 1-line email. Say, hey, Kimberly, I checked it out. It's not really right for me. We'll turn off your access. We'll send you, full refund, and really just say thanks for checking it out. I mentioned I play the long game here. I don't want this to be the last time that we all, that we get to hang out. I want your experience to be good, and I want this to be the right fit. I'm really looking forward to working with everyone who's moving forward with this. We've got some exciting things around the corner. So thank you so much. Have a great afternoon, great rest of your day, and we'll talk soon. Take care, guys.